Hey downtown van.
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 You're listening to Hey Downtown Van, hosted by the Downtown Vancouver BIA.
Hey downtown van. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Sofia Laratta, and today's guest is Stacey Forrester. Stacey is the co-founder and education director of Good Night Out Vancouver, an organization dedicated to ending sexual violence in nightlife and hospitality spaces. With a background in nursing, harm reduction, and gender justice, Stacey leads workshops, public education, and policy initiatives to create safer, more inclusive communities. We hope you enjoy today's episode, and let's get into it. Stacey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How's your day so far?
Lovely. It's beautiful. It's summer in Vancouver. You can't complain ever. As soon as the sun comes out.
So true. We've been very lucky. So you work for, or you are the co-founder of Good Night Out Vancouver. And for those of you who are listening and watching who don't know what Good Night Out Vancouver is, can you just share a little bit about your organization and what inspired you to co-found?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit based here. We started in Vancouver. We're now really operate all across Canada, but we are an organization that's focused on sexual violence prevention in hospitality, nightlife, music, kind of non-traditional spaces where people gather. And so we do workshops. We do about 100 workshops a year. We also have outreach teams that work downtown Vancouver and also downtown Victoria. And we just generally also try to advocate across all levels of government for better policies to address gender-based violence. Mm-hmm. And this project honestly started out of a love for Vancouver nightlife. It really was started because we all, as young adults, loved going out and loved time with friends and experiencing music, but also recognized that all it takes is someone else's behavior in just a passing moment to really ruin or take away from that experience. Yeah.
And I feel like as people who identify as women, that unfortunately happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
So how do you define safer nightlife, and why is it so urgently needed in Vancouver?
Yeah, so I think one of the challenging or I guess like interesting things about safety is that it really is all in flux. It is determined by so many different factors like your identity, your lived experience, social conditions. So you and I could go out to a nightlife establishment at the same time, and due to differing experiences and identities, we could have a very different time, even knowing we were there kind of experiencing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so that is one of the challenging parts, is like, what even is safety? When we say safety, safe for who, which we'll probably talk about at some point today. But we do kind of draw on some things that research has shown, both our research and academic research do contribute to like a safer experience. Mm-hmm. Things like strong policy, enforcement of policy, consistent enforcement of policy, and also like sensitive training for staff that is current and trauma informed. Those kind of consistently show up in the literature about what makes people feel safe. And then we do our own annual safety survey. We've done it for about 7 years. And we ask workers and patrons, what makes you feel safe in a space? And this last year, the top 4 answers for them were code of conduct, discreet ways to get help, knowing that the place has naloxone training, and also in that top 4 or 5, I think was, trained staff, trauma-informed staff.
Mm-hmm. How often do you put out the survey? Once a year?
We do it once a year, usually late fall, early winter.
And can anybody take the survey?
Anyone can take the survey. So I'll plug our socials later, but watch our socials around the fall, and it's open to workers and patrons.
Great. I love that.
Yeah.
So Good Night Out focuses on bystander intervention. How do you teach people to step in safely and effectively?
Yeah, bystander intervention is our second most popular workshop, other than our protective spaces, the one we give for bars and restaurants. And we do really try to teach it from a way that prioritizes your safety and also the safety of the people you're intervening on and the safety of the people around. Safety is so important. So we really try to teach it in a way that honors your own kind of like trauma response or stress response, tries to activate our frontal lobes. We're making rational decisions. We're not just swooping in and escalating a situation. And so, if you are a person who kind of freezes, which is a very common response of like, I don't know what to do. I know I should do something, but I forget every single word I've been taught. Then we want to work with that. I want to work with you so that you recognize that that is where your body normally goes when witnessing or experiencing something. And so how do we build up your strength in delegating? How do we help you to recognize who around you can you bring into it because you're going to have a freeze response?
Right.
Or if you're a more direct person, you're really assertive. Maybe even when you're faced with confrontation, you're ready to fight. I want to work with you so that you can stay in the driver's seat of that emotion and rein it in so that you can be really skilled at being direct without letting that get out of control. So we teach about 6 or 7 different kind of strategies and really encourage people to go with the one that speaks best to them and the best for that situation and to do so safely.
I think that's really important because as someone who has experienced it on both ends, when you're the victim, you feel like no one is helping you and you're confused why no one is helping you. And then when you are witnessing something, you're also fearing for your own life or what would happen if I did intervene. So a lot of the time people don't intervene. So teaching people how to intervene safely, I think is just a really important skill.
It's so important. I think a lot of the general public, if they've never taken this training, they assume that it's going to be like confrontational and you have to be assertive. And so they don't even really think that bystander intervention is even for them because of those assumptions. And so we really try to, like, even if you are a person who's so shy, hates conflict, you will leave with a strategy to do something.
That's great because it's de-escalation at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
You're partners with a lot of people, and if you want to name those off for us, that'd be great. But could you just explain the power of those partnerships and how they've helped you achieve your goals for the organization?
Yeah, there's no way we would still be here almost 10 years later if we didn't have community partnerships. The reality is that sexual violence, gender-based violence is a community issue. So no one organization, no one human is going to solve it. The solution has to come from community. And so obviously funding partners have been really critical. The City of Vancouver, Downtown Van, also Destination Vancouver, but also just partners who amplify our cause, help us with storage, invite us to their events. We often work really siloed organizations doing this work, and we knew from the beginning that we would not be sustainable if we did that. So anytime anyone even like shares a post or amplifies our cause, we consider that, a really important way to be a partner in this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And the work that you do is so important. I think some people might have the feeling of police presence potentially making them feel more unsafe. Some people say that it makes them feel more safe. How do you work in tandem with VPD? Do you have a relationship with them?
Yeah, and I mean, what you just said is reflected every year in our survey because we do ask, what enhances your safety, what detracts from your safety, and the feedback that comes in, there is often a wide variety of takes on that. We know in this current climate that there is mistrust of police. And so we really see our team as an example of when we talk about community solutions and we talk about alternatives to policing, we really see our team as a model of, we can take the things, especially when we're our team on Granville out on Friday, Saturday nights, there are things that police are just too busy to deal with, that they're maybe not the right skill set to deal with. And so we are able to kind of act as a buffer and engage with people so that it doesn't get escalated to police by default. You know, there are situations where we're with an intoxicated, crying young woman for half an hour, and that police resources aren't needed for things like that. So we do really consider ourselves an example of what other services can also provide safety.
Definitely. And I think that's another example of why an organization like yours is so important, because we've also heard from VPD that exact same thing, is that they don't have time to do a lot of the things that you're doing. And so it's great to have, organizations like yours to step in. If you want to, or if you can, could you share a memorable success story where an intervention prevented harm?
Yeah, I love this question because I think I often get asked what's the worst thing you ever saw, or really dramatic thing. So I appreciate this question so much. I think a challenge with prevention work, because ultimately we are a prevention organization, a challenge is we don't often get to see or quantify those things because we prevented them from happening. So it's hard. So I think every night is full of little interactions. The fact that we've been out every Friday and Saturday night since 2017 means that we are now a fixture. So bouncers recognize us, the buskers recognize us, people who frequent that area regularly know to expect us and either give us high fives or will be looking for us. If their friend is in distress, they'll be on the sidewalk looking for the pink shirts, because we wear head to toe pink. And so that is really rewarding. When we check our Instagram on Sundays and Mondays, the DMs from people being like, hey, I think you helped me last night. I just wanted to thank you. A few folks have joined our team because they've been helped by us. Anytime a parent reaches out, we do sometimes have to call a mom or a dad because we are out of options. We found a person, they're very intoxicated. We have no other options. And so, a parent picking up their kid and us doing that handoff is also really special, because who knows where the night could have ended for them. Yeah. We did recently, definitely, it's rare. This is not a common occurrence. I don't want to give the illusion that it is, but our team did save a life fairly recently. We had found a club goer who was showing the signs of potential drug toxicity, and were the first people there. And due to where we found this person and the lack of people around, it very easily could have had a different outcome. So that is very rewarding to think if we weren't there, so much of everyone's night could have gone differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. What are some of the biggest challenges that venues face in implementing your safety guidelines?
Yeah, we try to stay on the pulse of this. We try to collect this data pretty regularly because that's so important to what we do. And there's quite a few reasons we've identified. So one, I think the reality is that if we think of how we have constructed nightlife, it's glamorous, it's sexy, it's flirty.
That's what the TV told us.
It's about having fun. And so the topic of sexual violence and gender-based violence and workplace harassment are inherently not sexy topics. And they kind of seem to sit in tension with everything that nightlife and hospitality is about. So I think right out of the gate, that's a barrier. I think as a society, we don't think about prevention. We don't think about things until we need them. In fact, when Good Night Out first started, I would say 100% of the workshop bookings we got were from a business that was actively in crisis. Something had happened and they were reaching out. And I think that unfortunately, that connected Good Night Out with the negative. If Good Night Out's there, things must be bad. It has shifted so much since then. I would say we are now probably 60% proactive, 40% reactive. But I think it is a challenge to get businesses to think about things before they need them. Humans just, I don't think, inherently operate like that. Yeah. And so resourcing prevention, especially in times of, economic downturn, which this industry is definitely still in COVID recovery, it's just, so much harder. We do heavily subsidize our workshops, but the resources that businesses might have are increasingly limited right now. So to not just pay for a training, but also pay for staff to come in and do it. And then just, I think the high turnover of the hospitality industry
Right.
means it's hard to stay on top of, even if you do get all of your staff trained. What if they're all, by next summer,
Right.
you've had high turnover? So that's kind of what we heard. We're definitely very flexible. We try to meet the industry where they're at because this training is just so important.
So, so important. And like you said, I feel like businesses or people in general are always more on the defense when it comes to things like this. Like, I don't need it. Like, my business is fine. But like you said, prevention is really important.
Yeah. I mean, sexual violence is pervasive in Canada. So I know we like to think that our little corner is totally safe, but that's just like not the reality.
Yeah.
And I do kind of say when people are humming and hawing about whether to do it now or just wait, is our brain does much better thinking when we're not in crisis response. So if you're calling me up because there has been an incident, which is nothing to be ashamed of, again, sexual violence is very common, you will just think clearer and better when you're not also navigating that. It's like insurance. It's like,
Yeah, or like event safety, wanting to be prepared before a crisis, like preventing a crisis from happening.
Yes.
How does harm reduction in nightlife differ from traditional consent education?
Yeah, this is such an interesting question because if we were to like make a Venn diagram of the two, I would say there's more overlap than not, right? Like they both really, I think at the center are about honoring bodily autonomy. They both center care for others, even when others want something different than you. But if I had to pull them apart, harm reduction is about how to reduce risk with alcohol and other drugs. And consent, at least how it's commonly taught, is really about relationships. But I really struggled to separate them. I think they're like two sides of the same conversation.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is your team certified in first aid and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so our team, we tend to recruit from people who are already kind of doing this work.
Right.
We will take people who are totally green, but they're never the majority. So we do tend to get a lot of like nursing students or social work students or folks who also work as mental health workers in the downtown east side. So they tend to already come to us with a strong skill set, and then we do train them in bystander intervention. We get them naloxone trained. We bring in first aid training a couple times a year, depending if we've had turnover or not, so that they can be the first responder if they have to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have a background in nursing as well?
I do, yeah. I worked for many years as a harm reduction nurse in the downtown east side.
Oh, cool.
Not currently doing that work anymore, but that was just such a big part, too, of what I wanted to do with Good Night Out.
Yeah, for sure. What role should bystander training play in schools, universities, or even music festivals?
Yeah, I mean, any event, any setting where there's going to be groups of people, bystander intervention is needed. It's not something we inherently know how to do. In fact, if you had told 17-year-old me that I would not only be intervening, but also teaching others how to intervene, I mean, like, that is not true. That could not be true. And I think that's a testament to it's something you learn how to do. It's not something that, comes naturally. And so anytime you're bringing people together, you want that crowd to have intervention skills. Like, Good Night Out is really trying to get Vancouver and the other communities we work in hit with like critical mass, like saturate the masses with this skill so that we can trust that when we go to an event, the people around us will have it. So it just it's so essential.
It is essential. I feel like it's one of those things that should be in a school curriculum when you're young.
Yes.
Because you might I was talking to Deb Lester from Covenant House. She's the CEO of Covenant House, and she was saying teaching kids while they're young will prevent so much in the future.
Yeah.
So having that in sexual education classes, I mean, you have to take them in grade 7, grade 8. So it should just be a part of the curriculum and
and it applies
schools.
to so many things. It's helpful for consent and also safety, but it's also helpful when, you're in the job and something's
Mm-hmm.
happening that you're not super comfortable with. Like
Mm-hmm.
having those skills and being able to methodically work through them are just, so helpful.
Absolutely. How does power dynamics, especially involving gender, race, and privilege, play into nightlife safety?
Yeah, so sexual violence, gender-based violence is primarily perpetrated by people with access to those things. So with access to power, with access to privilege. And it is most likely to be people who lack those things who are victimized. So power really is what folks who work in gender-based violence call a root cause. There are other causes that combine, but power is definitely a root cause. And so yes, Good Night Out can teach you tools. We can teach you bystander intervention. But if we don't also teach you how to identify the ways in which power is being misused, the tools aren't going to be very helpful.
Right.
Power dynamics are present in all of our relationships. It's impossible to move through the world with only people who hold the same,
Totally.
dynamics as you. It's impossible, and it would also be very boring. So, power isn't inherently bad, or power dynamics aren't inherently bad. I think we could all in this room think of, for example, a teacher from when we were young who really influenced us in some way, like our love for reading, our love for music. That's an example of a power dynamic that was used in a healthy way. So our training really requires businesses to kind of zoom out and identify power dynamics, identify how they're being used, and really ask who potentially could be the most vulnerable person in this space, and are we looking out for them? Because if we are, everyone else who potentially isn't as vulnerable will benefit and will have a better experience.
Yeah, totally. And we just had Flavio Caron from Indigenous Corporate Training, and he said something very similar where the larger groups or the mass majority might not identify the challenges of a minority. So going into a workplace and teaching people all of these skills is really important.
Yeah.
Have you ever done corporate training outside of hospitality industries?
We haven't. I think part of the reason why Good Night Out has been so successful is really knowing our lane and knowing our skill set and knowing what we do well. And so we do really cater to places where alcohol is served. Film and theater have kind of come under our umbrella.
Interesting.
Because I do think that while gender-based violence and sexual violence looks similar in every corner, every industry, I think a lot of the trainings that maybe speak to more corporate spaces don't really resonate with hospitality and nightlife workers, because it is an environment where it's a little more casual, it's high intensity, it's very common for you to, date your coworkers, all of your friends work in the industry, and so the more corporate trainings, oftentimes won't really stick or won't be applicable. And I think that's why we've been as successful as we have.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. I would love to do a bank or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
it would be useful in any industry.
Yeah.
Did you ever work in the hospitality industry as well?
Yeah, I did. As like many people, how I also paid for school. And bartending at various rather dingy bars where in the area I grew up. And I think that's been important too.
Yes.
I think that the folks, myself and the other educators we use or have used in the past have that reality.
Yes.
Because I also think that it wouldn't land if we just didn't have that nuance.
Totally. You have firsthand experience on both ends in both industries, which is really, really interesting. What is Good Night Out doing to ensure QT BIPOC communities feel heard and protected?
Yeah. So this, I would say, since our inception, has always been at the forefront, like grappling with the question of who are we to define safety? Who are we to talk about what people need, especially folks who sit on different intersections? And so how can we stay accountable and accessible to groups who are most likely to be targeted with gender-based violence. And so there's a few ways we do this. One, our safety survey is a good way. So really, if we look at the demographic continually of our safety survey, it is primarily folks who are marginalized in one way or another who weigh in, and really taking the survey findings to heart. To also, never assuming to speak on behalf of this is what women want,
right,
or things like that, but rather giving businesses the tools to listen when people speak up. We host bi-monthly, every other month, consultations that are paid, and we actively recruit folks from intersecting communities to get paid to give us feedback on our workshops, our resources, the route for our street team, to ensure that the choices we make aren't just coming from us and our lens. And then actively recruiting for governance, the board of our organization, really wanting to have diverse representation in that decision-making power. And our street team is primarily at this point QT BIPOC, and that's really important, because if we think about calling ourselves a peer-based outreach team, what a peer to who? Who is a peer and who
For
isn't?
sure.
And so that at any given night, when they're out on the street, there's opportunities for people to be supported by maybe someone who looks like them or has similar identities or gender expressions.
Absolutely.
To help build that sense of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Is your team, does it generally on the weekends focus on Granville Street, or does it disperse amongst all of Vancouver?
Great question. So we are on Granville Street. We're in the GED. We start at the Commodore, and our route ends at the Drake. So pretty good ground. Once the Commodore closes, we shuffle down a little bit, because they do tend to close earlier, and we stay on Granville. Sometimes we will do a loop through an alley, through a lane, if it looks like there's activity back there. And there are a couple little nooks and crannies that they look in. But we do, for that team, stay on Granville. Last summer, we were part of the Water Street reduced car pilot. And we had a team Thursday, Friday nights, 8 a.m. to midnight in Gastown, which did show that it's also needed there.
And 8 a.m. to midnight? So 20.
8 p.m. to midnight.
Okay.
Oh my God, no. I mean, that would be great. But we currently do not have enough staff.
Yeah.
8 p.m. to midnight, so a little bit earlier than our Granville Street team. And I do think Gastown is an emerging area with more and more late night spaces and a destination for drinks and dancing that's an alternative to the GED. And so we were down there, and that was great. We would love to continue to explore that being a more permanent fixture. So yeah, really only Granville. That team, though, is also for hire. So different events can hire our team to have them at their event, kind of doing the wandering presence that
That's
they do.
Great.
Public Disco, for example, hires us for all of their events to have a presence. So that gets us out to other areas of town.
I didn't know that we could hire your team to come to events. That's actually really a great idea.
Yeah.
I love that. Where do you see Good Night Out Vancouver in the next 5 years?
Yeah. There's kind of two answers to this. I am every day aware that a scrappy little organization that relies on grants, for us to still be here is, I think, a gift. It's a challenge. We've watched a lot of organizations fold over the past few years due to funding cuts or due to government coming in that has different priorities, which is really weird to say, because how could the safety of over half the population be seen as a, trendy whim, something that is shifted on a whim. So, I mean, I hope that we're still here. I hope that we are better funded, that we still yet don't have funding for an executive director. So as we've grown in size, we do really need that role. So I hope that we come across that. We do know that, the province has recently declared gender-based violence an epidemic in BC.
Wow. So
we're hoping to kind of be recognized as having some of the tools to help contribute to reduce that. But then the other side of that is I also hope that we work ourselves out of work and we eradicate gender-based violence. And so we're not needed
Totally.
anymore. And we're like, okay, sweet. We know when to leave.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's probably not going to happen in 5 years. So yeah, I hope we're still here. I hope we're still continue to be trusted and recognized by Vancouver as valuable. And yeah.
I also hope you're still around in 5 years because your organization is so important. Who makes up your board? You mentioned you have a board of
Yeah.
directors.
Yeah, so we have, it was really interesting. About 2 years ago, our board shifted from being friends, because I think this is a very common experience when you start a new nonprofit. Your first rounds of boards, I think, are your friends who are like, this is great. Sure, I'll help you. I've never been on a board before. And that definitely served us well. But as we grew out of our awkward teenage phase and into a more adult, not us literally, our organization, into a more kind of established, we really did have to intentionally recruit people with board experience.
Right.
And so this most recent round of our board is primarily strangers. Folks who like our cause and who we don't really have a relationship with. So we have Trina Notman, who was with Accent Inns for a while and has been very vocal about gender-based violence in the hospitality industry. Love you, Trina. We have a couple of folks who work in either liquor rep or like journalism around food and beverage. We have folks who either have current or past experience with sex work. We've also had like activists. It's a really kind of, I think, cross-generational and cross-sectoral mix that I absolutely adore.
Yeah, no, that's great to have a diverse board, especially for Good Night Out.
Yeah.
What do you think the possibility of working yourself out of a job one day could be? I know you said the province of British Columbia claimed it as an epidemic. Are rates going down? Are they staying high? Are they staying the same?
Great question. So technically on paper, the reported number of sexual assaults in Canada has been increasing. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening more often. That is one interpretation. However, it could also mean that people, due to shifts in society, are feeling more comfortable reporting. Right? Especially reporting things that in past years, women and marginalized genders were really taught, well, it's not that bad. It's not real sexual assaults. And so I do deeply believe, due to the work of prevention organizations, that there's just an increased awareness of, no, that's not okay. And so I think that does play a role in the increased reporting. But we also know that only 6% of sexual assaults are reported. So, you know, and this isn't a Vancouver issue. It's not even a Canada issue. Sexual violence, again, is prevalent in all communities. And so, not to be pessimistic, but I do think that we're far off from getting there. I think that Vancouver, like a lot of cities, is really striving to meet like the Sustainable Development Goals, or we have our own gender equity strategy, or even our healthy city strategy from the city of Vancouver. And we're just currently making progress, but not in a way that I hope to see it in my generation. I hope that we get more comfortable with consent education in schools and we're starting earlier. But I do think that there still is a way to go.
Yeah, for sure. What can everyday listeners do to support your mission and make nightlife safer?
Yeah, I think that the everyday listener can really consider, and I feel like they're doing this anyway post-COVID, but voting with their dollar. So when looking at an event or a space to go, just doing a little bit of research around that space or that event's investment in patron safety. We've kind of heard anecdotally since COVID that a lot of the habits that consumers got into during COVID have stuck. Like, you know, who is looking out for me? Who is having precautions? And that mentality, I think, has spilled over into our work. So much so that on our most recent survey, we asked, does the presence of one or more safer space interventions influence whether or not you will go to a space. And 87% said, yes, it does. And then we asked how. And they said that they're more likely to go there more often, recommend it, bring friends, and drink more, which are all pluses for the industry.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage folks who aren't already doing that to spend your money in places that do care about your well-being and that are publicly investing in these things. So feel free to like ask them, DM them on Instagram. Do you have a code of conduct? Have you taken training? We have a program out right now that's a partnership with the city of Vancouver. It's a self-audit tool. So business gets the audit tool. They fill it out themselves. They send it back to us. And if they have any shortcomings, they get everything they need to correct them. They get free training.
Wow.
They get policy templates. And once they are credentialed, they get stickers and things to go up in their place. So as we start to announce more of those, choose to go there, support them and thank them and seek these things out. Brush up on your own consent skills, brush up on your own bystander intervention skills, and then engage with community organizations doing this work. Again, like I said at the top of our chat, every little follow and share definitely helps us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what would you say to people? What are some signs that they can either keep themselves safe or keep others safe? If you could share any little tidbit of advice.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes safety easier is I don't even want to say situational awareness because that sounds victim blamey, but it is so easy. All of us nowadays, phone, headphones, tuned out, and I'm not sharing this in a way that's like that will make you vulnerable, but rather the other side. When we are paying attention to our surroundings, it is easier for us to recognize when someone else is in distress, right? But it's so easy to put our headphones on, put our head down, doom scroll while we're on the train or walking around. But the ability to just like make eye contact with community members, I think is so essential. I think a really common experience we hear is people being targeted in some way, whether it's sexual violence or, racial violence or homophobic. And they look around to make eye contact with anyone. And folks are just like having their own freeze response of like, oh my God, I can't look. I don't know what to do.
I've experienced that situation.
Yeah. And so even the ability to, if you're able to make really strong eye contact with a person and kind of have that unspoken conversation, not just saying, I see you, but also to kind of take guidance from them. And so, that ability to just be present is such a strong part of it. If you are out with someone and someone in your own social circle is, they're well-intended, they're probably harmless, but they make a comment that's a little like, oh, should we be saying that in the year 2025? Work on your skills in checking that behavior. And like calling your friends and your coworkers in is really like a gift. It's an act of love to be like, hey, can we chat about what you said in the meeting? I'm worried that when you say things like that, the rest of our team isn't seeing all the great things I see in you. I don't think you're aware of the impact that your words have. And like, trying to get those things earlier on is such a critical part of safety too.
Prevention. Once again.
In our own circles. It starts in our own circles. Gender-based violence is not going to be solved by one hero coming in. It is going to be solved by all of us waking up every single day and making a choice around what behaviors we're going to address and which we won't, and what we're going to do and who we're going to support and where we're going to spend time. That is how. It's kind of like a Jenga game. We teach this in our workshop. Like eventually all of us waking up and like challenging a joke, updating language, the whole thing will crumble eventually.
Yeah. I have hope in our generation and generations younger. I think people are doing that a lot more.
Oh, man. Whatever generation we're on, alpha or whatever it is, this up-and-coming generation that's about to be released into the workforce is not going to tolerate nonsense.
Yeah.
They're not going to. Previous generations have maybe towed the line a little bit or spoken up, but they're not kidding around.
Yeah.
When it comes to like safety or understanding the nuances of gender or radical acceptance of all identities, And so you're best to do it now so you're not
Totally.
caught off guard.
Totally, which is great
Yes.
because I think like even our generation, we have had influences that have told us to kind of, go with the flow, don't report. If anything happens, don't say anything. And that's just been ingrained in us systemically in society. So I think it is great that Gen Alpha is so outspoken. Good for them.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to my neighborhood Safeway, and there was Girl Scouts, which have recently updated. They're now, inclusive of other genders as well. But they were selling the cookies, which is like a weakness. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll buy 5 boxes. And the young girl behind the table was scowling. She clearly did not want to be on cookie hustle duty.
Oh, no.
And someone said to her, like, you'd probably sell more cookies if you smiled.
Oh.
And so I'm ready to intervene. And she looks at her dad, and she says something to the effect of, like, my dad says I don't have to smile just because someone tells me to, or something like that. And I was like, Dad, yes. Yeah,
But
so
that's
shout out
great.
if that was you, if your child was selling cookies at the Commercial Drive Safeway. Good job.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Dad for real. I remember so specifically, I was in Disneyland for a choir trip in grade 12, and I was on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And like me, like as a person in general, like I'm pretty chill. I don't really smile often. Well, anyways, I'm happy, but I'm like really chill. Like when I'm enjoying something, I think people don't realize it's hard, or it's hard to see if I'm having fun or not because I'm just so chill. But I'm having a good time eternally. Yeah. And a literal stranger in Disneyland yelled at me from the line and was like, "You're in Disneyland. Why aren't you smiling?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was in the moment, I was like, this is really awful. I don't like this feeling, but I don't think it hit me until I was older that that's harassment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it happened many times after that too. But it's great to see that someone's dad had the knowledge to teach their young daughter or whoever it was that even that is considered harassment as well.
Yeah, and I think what you just said really illustrates how the things, especially in the hospitality industry, that are dismissed as like not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't be difficult in the workplace by making this a problem.
Yeah.
They do impact people. Like that happened when you were a child, and it's still there for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is a testament to, even when they're said in passing, continually being exposed to them through your childhood and your time at school and your career, or even just like temporary jobs you've had. It's very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that are easy to correct.
Yeah.
If whoever said that to you, if whoever there was with had been like, what? Don't talk to a young child like that, then maybe they wouldn't have repeated it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, it starts from the inside.
Yes.
Friend groups in your workplace, everywhere.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is that when someone does speak up, that also stays with you.
Oh, yeah.
For a really long time, and it shows what it looks like. So, for example, we teach in our workshop to, if you are a liquor serving space, try to get in the habit of, when a stranger comes and says, hey, I'd like to get that table a round of drinks on me, inquiring about it a little bit instead of just being like, sure, yep, I'll take those strangers' drinks for you.
Right.
But, like, oh, do you know them? No. Okay, cool. Well, consent is really important around here. So I'm just going to go ask to make sure, 1, that they'd like another round, and 2, that they would like one from you. Yes. And I will let you know. And getting in the habit of that. And so we teach that, but I had never been on the receiving end of that. And I was at a brewery that we had trained. They did that to me. And in that instant, I had never felt a sensation like that of like, oh, this stranger cares about my well-being enough to check. It turns out I did know the person who was doing it. I just hadn't seen them. But that moment of like accounting for my safety was so powerful.
Yes.
And now you like crave it. You're like, I want every place to feel like this.
Yeah, it makes me like want to cry a little bit because this is my own personal journey. I have never experienced in public someone intervening when I have been very obviously in distress or uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so I try as a person to always intervene when I feel safe and when I think that I can. because I don't want other people to feel the way that I have felt in situations.
It's so profound. Even if you don't do anything in the moment, for whatever reason, you froze, even just stopping to go up to the person and saying, hey, I saw what happened to you, and I'm really sorry that happened to you. And I'm also really sorry that no one came to your help, including me.
Yeah.
But I'm here now, and your safety in downtown Vancouver is really important to me. What do you need?
Yeah.
Do you need to go somewhere and charge your phone? Can I help you call someone? And having that moment to like ground them, validate their experience. It's not going to fix what happened to them, but it will help them affirm that it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And also process it and carry on.
Absolutely. I would have loved if someone even just came up to me after the situation to see if I was okay. So that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Where can people find Good Night Out Vancouver?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of things going on right now. So our website is goodnightoutvancouver.com. That's where you can book a workshop. You can learn about our workshops. We just launched a once monthly virtual skill building session. So they're happening from August to December. So even if your workplace hasn't booked us, but you really want this training, it's an opportunity for workers. So you can find that on the website. The Last Call Project, which is the audit I talked about, has its own website. It is lastcallproject.ca. We're on Instagram, goodnightout_Vancouver. I'm sure it'll be linked with this podcast. But we post a lot of content that is snippets of bystander intervention. So we do really consider our account an educational space. And then, we'll be at Public Disco all summer. So if you're going to any of those events, like I said, the team wears Pinky Peach. And then you can find them downtown Friday, Saturday nights, midnight to 4 a.m., wandering the GED. And they love high fives. They're there to help you. People often refer to them as the Red Cross for drunk people, but we don't just help drunk people. We also help people working in the area with safe walks or checking in on them. So you can find them down there.
That's amazing. Do you have a direct line to if you're in crisis?
Not for the public. Maybe in 5 years.
Yeah.
They do have a phone number, but right now only the venues have the number. So the venue can text our team.
Great.
And say, hey, we have to remove someone, but we don't really feel okay releasing them. Can you come get them? We're just not. I feel like if we did that, we're already so
Oh my
busy.
God, you get so many calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do in the GED. It's so important. And around Vancouver, we definitely need more of organizations like yours. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Hey Downtown Van. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode with Stacey Forrester. If you'd like to learn more about our organization and all that we do, you can visit us online, dtvan.ca, or follow along with the podcast at Hey Downtown Van.